Chief of Defense Staff General Olufemi Oluyede calls for stronger alliances to combat insecurity. Federal government completes evacuation of Nigerians from South Africa. Troops rescue 13 kidnapped victims to stop terrorists in Zamfara State. Court orders final forfeiture of 48 properties linked to former Attorney General of the Federation Abubakar, Malami. And in business, President Bola Tinubu approves 3.6 billion naira to empower tailors under ITF skills program. And elsewhere, South Africa launches probe into killing of anti-migrant leader. Many thanks for joining us. I am Kenachko Ojuyenum and you are watching Third Eye Africa Television. Let's begin. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, has urged stronger collaboration among government institutions, civil society, and other stakeholders to tackle Nigerian security challenges. Speaking at the Royal College of Defense Studies, RCDS, Alumni Association Nigeria Chapter Summit in Abuja, Oluyede said trust and consensus remain vital to achieving lasting peace. Represented by Chief of Defense Training, Rear Admiral Abolade Ogunleye, he said cooperation among the executive legislature, judiciary, military, and other institutions was essential for national unity. He stressed that peaceful coexistence, regardless of ethnicity, religion, or tribe, remains the foundation of a stable and united Nigeria. Oluyede urged government at all levels to create enabling environments for dialogue and collaboration with civil society and community leaders. He said broad-based partnerships are necessary to develop lasting solutions to insecurity across the country. The defense chief expressed confidence that collective efforts would help overcome the nation's security challenges. He said discussions at the summit would identify practical solutions to address the root causes of insecurity. RCDS's alumni president, Major General Oluwaseun Oshinwo, retired, said the absence of elite consensus remains a major obstacle to peace, stressing that sustainable security requires trust, inclusive governance, and national unity. And now, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has called for phased implementation of state police across Nigeria. Speaking at the National Security Roundtable in Abuja, Abbas said states must meet nationally prescribed standards before establishing police services. He described President Bola Tinubu's executive bill on state police as a bold step towards improving national security. He said Nigeria's growing insecurity has exposed the limits of a centrally controlled police system. The proposed legislation would rename the Nigeria Police Force as the Federal Police Service while allowing states to establish their own police. Abbas said state police would only commence operations after satisfying national minimum standards. He explained that the federal police would retain responsibility for terrorism, border security, federal offences, and the Federal Capital Territory. The speaker said safeguards, including independent state police commissions and constitutional checks, would prevent political abuse. He also called for stronger intelligence sharing, integrated criminal database, and improved welfare for security personnel. Abbas urged the National Assembly to first enact a National Minimum Standards Act before any state police begins operation. And now over to the Senate, who has approved a 50 million naira donation to the families of 5 individuals who died during the rescue of abducted pupils and teachers in Uri-Ire local government area of Oyo State. Each of the 5 bereaved families will receive 10 million naira in recognition of the sacrifices made during the operation. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the donation during plenary, praising the military and security agencies for rescuing the victims after 56 days in captivity. He said the financial support was intended to assist the children and dependents left behind by the deceased. The resolution followed a motion sponsored by Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele commending President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and security agencies for the successful operation. Bamidele described the May 15 abduction as a disturbing spread of organized criminal activities into the southwest. He said intelligence-led operations ordered by the president led to the July 10th rescue and killing of several criminals and the arrest of 8 suspected terrorists. The Senate said the operation restored public confidence and demonstrated that criminal elements would not find safe haven in Nigeria. Lawmakers also urged authorities to provide quality medical care and welfare support for Lance Corporal Adamu Hussein, who was seriously injured while protecting the abducted children. The Senate honored the 3 fallen soldiers and 2 teachers with a minute's silence and reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening school security, supporting security personnel, and protecting vulnerable communities. And now the federal government has completed the evacuation of Nigerians affected by xenophobic attacks in South Africa. The final government-sponsored flight carrying 308 returnees arrived in Lagos on Wednesday. 3 Nigerian officials who coordinated the evacuation also returned on the flight. The returnees were received by government officials at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. Minister of Foreign Affairs Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu said more than 1,500 Nigerians had been evacuated. She praised President Bola Tinubu for approving the emergency evacuation, saying the intervention saved lives and demonstrated the government's commitment to protecting Nigerians abroad. Odumegu Ojukwu also commended Nigerians' diplomatic missions in South Africa and Air Peace for supporting the exercise. She thanked Nigerians for the patience and confidence throughout the evacuation process. Troops of Operation Fansanyama have rescued 13 kidnapped victims during separate operations in Anka and Karanamoda local government areas of Zamfara State. The operations also disrupted planned terrorist attacks, forcing the gunmen to flee and abandon their captives. Military spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Aliyu Danja said troops acted on credible intelligence in Bagega, Anka local government area, and guided by real-time surveillance. The troops pursued the terrorists with superior firepower. He said the terrorists escaped, leaving behind a makeshift camp where 5 kidnapped civilians were rescued unharmed. In another operation at Ungwanrogo in Karanamoda, troops engaged terrorists in a fierce gun battle. The criminals fled, abandoning 8 kidnapped victims and 2 vehicles recovered by the troops. The military said all 13 rescued victims have been handed over to the relevant authorities for care and support. Danja said troops have continued to dominate the affected areas to prevent terrorists from regrouping, reaffirming the military's commitment to sustaining pressure on criminal elements across the Northwest. And coming from Kogi State, where gunmen have abducted 4 students, a school principal, and a NECO ad hoc official from government secondary school Odo Ekina in Dekina local government area of Kogi State. The victims were kidnapped as the ongoing NECO examination was ending. The spokesperson of the Kogi State Police Command, Salisu Oiza, who confirmed the incident on Wednesday, said security agencies immediately launched a rescue operation. She disclosed that one of the abducted students has already been rescued, noting that efforts are ongoing to rescue the remaining victims and arrest the attackers. The Commissioner of Police, Brigade Commander, and the State Security Advisor have visited the scene for an on-the-spot assessment. The police assured residents that additional security measures had been deployed, urging the public to remain calm and cooperate with security agencies. And now police in Kano State have arrested a 28-year-old suspected bandit found in possession of military uniforms, ammunition, and other items. The suspect, Mohammed Issa Haruna, was arrested in Rimawiya village, Bichi local government area. Police said the arrest followed credible intelligence from a vigilance residence. A search of his belongings led to the recovery of an AK-47 magazine, 109 rounds of live ammunition, and suspected military uniforms. Officers also recovered military caps, a fake military identity card, ATM cards, and desert boots. The suspect reportedly confessed that he was delivering the recovered items to bandits hiding in the bush. Commissioner of Police Ibrahim Adamu Bakori commended the community for promptly reporting the suspects, describing the arrest as another example of the importance of community policing. And now coming from Osun State, where the State Police Command has rescued a 50-year-old kidnapped Heather, recovered 2.22 million naira suspected ransom, and arrested a suspected kidnapper after a gun battle with abductors. Commissioner of Police Ibrahim Gotan disclosed this during a press briefing, saying the victim, Haruna Yusuf, was rescued unharmed in an intelligence-led operation by the command's violent crime response unit. He said the police said Yusuf was abducted on July 9th near Waseni village along the Bogan Ibadan road by 4 suspected kidnappers, prompting a coordinated search involving police operatives and local vigilantes. The breakthrough came on July 12th during surveillance of a ransom drop-off at Majeruku along the Ibadan-Ife Expressway, where officers engaged the kidnappers in the shootout after they opened fire. One suspect, Usman Aliyu, was arrested with gunshot injuries and taken to the hospital, while other gang members escaped. In a separate operation, officers arrested 3 suspected cultists and ritualists in Ire, recovering a small coffin and charms believed to be linked to criminal activities. The suspects are being investigated for alleged cultism and ritual-related offensive, while police work to identify other members of the network. The police commissioner also announced the arrest of another suspected kidnapper in Oyo State over a failed abduction in Jebu Jesha, alongside 8 other suspects apprehended for offenses including theft, drug possession, and hooliganism. A federal high court in Abuja has ordered the final forfeiture of 48 properties linked to former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, to the federal government. Justice Joyce Abdulmalik ruled the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) established the reasonable suspicion required under the law to justify the forfeiture. The court held that Malami has his relatives and companies linked to the assets failed to disprove allegations that the properties were acquired with proceeds of unlawful activities. Justice Abdulmalik dismissed all objections and applications filed by the respondents, describing them as lacking merit. She clarified that the case centered on the legitimacy of the funds used to acquire the properties rather than ownership. The judge held that the respondents failed to review the commission's reasonable suspicion regarding the assets, relying on the advance fee fraud and other fraud-related offences act. The court granted EFCC's application for final forfeiture while lifting interim forfeiture on some properties. The EFCC had sought the permanent forfeiture of 57 properties valued at 212.8 billion naira, alleging they were proceeds of unlawful activities. Malami, members of his family and associated companies had argued that the assets were lawfully acquired and that the EFCC failed to establish any link to criminal conduct. And now the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, has unveiled a wide-ranging reform agenda to modernize Hajj operations ahead of the 2027 pilgrimage in line with Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. Speaking at the 2026 Hajj Stakeholders Summit in Abuja, NACON Chairman and CEO Ambassador Ismail Abba Yusuf said preparations for the 2027 Hajj began immediately after the conclusion of the 2026 exercise. He said the reforms are aimed at improving Hajj administration through digital innovation, stronger accountability, and better service delivery for Nigerian pilgrims. A major aspect of the plan is the creation of a unified national pilgrimage digital platform to manage Hajj and Umrah registration payments, tracking the other services. The Commission also plans to introduce a predictable Hajj calendar through early planning to enhance efficiency and coordination. NACON will decentralize operations by assigning greater responsibilities to state pilgrims, welfare boards, and licensed store operators while concentrating on regulations and oversight. Other reforms include stricter service standards, improved financial transparency, enhanced regulation of Umrah operations, professional training through the Hajj Institute of Nigeria, and a standard pilgrims education curriculum in Nigeria in major Nigerian languages. Ambassador Yusuf said Nigeria must align with Saudi Arabia's technology-driven Hajj management system to secure better service packages, earlier contracts, and improved pilgrimage quarters. The NACON chairman said all state pilgrims, welfare boards, and licensed store operators have been directed to begin preparations for the 2027 Hajj, adding that resolutions from the Stakeholders Summit will shape the Commission's roadmap and future engagement with Saudi authorities. And now coming from Kebbi State, where the governor, Comrade Nasir Idris, has commissioned a newly completed office complex for the Renewed Hope agenda in Breeding Kebbi. The governor said he personally financed the construction of the facility to provide a permanent office and strengthen the organization's activities in the state. Our correspondent Hayatu Bala has more details on this report.
Speaking at the commissioning ceremony, the Kebbi State coordinator of the Renewed Hope agenda, Alaisambo Aliyu Gwandu, commended the governor for what he described as a remarkable show of commitment and leadership. He noted that the governor approved funds above the initial estimate and ensured the timely completion of the project, despite the rising cost of building materials. Alhaji Gwandu added that the organization has established a strong grassroots presence across the 21 local government areas, including wards and polling units, and pledged to continue support for the administration of Governor Nasir Idris, as well as the Renewed Hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. He also appealed for additional support to sustain the operation of the Secretariat. In his remarks, Governor Nasir Idris reaffirmed his administration's commitment to supporting initiatives that promote unity, political inclusion, and sustainable development. He assured the organization of the state government's continued backing and commended the state coordinator for his leadership and organizational capacity. The governor emphasized the importance of strengthening grassroots mobilization to achieve the objective of the Renewed Hope agenda in Kebbi State.
The Renewed Hope is a baby of our leader, Mr. President Bola Tinubu, and the aim of us, the governors of APC in Nigeria. Today we are going to implement this commission, and the state coordinator has enumerated some of their demands, particularly in the taking care of the administrative staff and also the maintenance of this very good edifice. And I have the belief that no organization can run without finances. So I want to assure you that government of Kebbi State will do everything possible to create a legal environment for you people to operate. We believe in the renewed agenda of Mr. President.
The ceremony featured the official commissioning and inspection of the facility by the governor. I am Hayatu Balanasra, reporting for Third Eye Africa from Birnin Kebbi.
Thank you, Hayatu. Up next is Business Brief. Do stay tuned. Glad to have you there. President Bola Tinubu has approved 3.6 billion naira to support tailors under the Industrial Training Fund's Skill Up Artisans Super Program aimed at boosting jobs and strengthening Nigeria's informal sector. ITF Director General Afiz Ogun announced this approval in Abuja during the nationwide screening of applicants for the 2026 program. He said only genuine artisans would benefit with successful applicants prepared for overseas jobs, local employment, or businesses incubation. Ogun said the screening would assess applicants' skills, commitment, and readiness, preventing non-artisans from accessing government support. About 200,000 artisans are expected to benefit in the first phase of the 2026 program, which has trained hundreds of thousands since its launch in 2024. He explained that the initiative was created to reduce dependence on foreign artisans and equip Nigerians with internationally recognized certifications and licenses. Ogun said certified artisans would be easier to identify and held accountable, improving service quality across technical trades. Rather than distributing starter packs, beneficiaries will now exit through international placement, direct employment, or business incubation. Tailors selected for incubation will receive industrial sewing machines, specialized equipment, mentoring, and technical support to build sustainable businesses. And in other news, the House of Representatives Public Accounts Committee has intensified its investigation into revenue remittances by federal agencies. It has therefore directed the Accountant General to provide records of outstanding payments by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and other government enterprises. Lawmakers also demanded explanations over deductions allegedly made from the statutory accounts of several ministries, departments, and agencies. The hearing forms part of efforts to ensure compliance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which requires government-owned enterprises to remit part of their operating surpluses. Committee member Boyega Isiaka expressed concern over poor revenue performance and questioned whether agencies were declaring their actual operating surpluses. Director of Revenue and Investment, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Makinde Mogaji, disclosed that the CBN allegedly owed the federal government 5.3 trillion naira in unremitted operating surplus. He said previous efforts to recover the funds had failed, while noting that other agencies such as FAN had made substantial remittances. Accountant General Samseldin Ogunjimi defended the government's auto deduction policy, saying it helped boost revenue by recovering anticipated operating surplus. He admitted that some agencies resisted the deductions, leading to reversal, while disagreements with the NNPCL remain under review. Ogunjimi also said governments occasionally borrowed ideal funds from agencies to meet urgent obligations, insisting the money was refunded when required. The committee rejected the explanation and directed the OAGF to submit comprehensive records of outstanding remittances, deductions, refunds, and balances as the investigation continues. Up next is Global Updates with Juliet. To stay tuned. And thank you for staying tuned and right on to Global Update. A special police team has been established to investigate the killing of Andelem Yelwa Sumgedaka, 10 leader of the anti-migrant group March and March. Police confirmed that Sumgeda was shot outside his home east of Johannesburg earlier this month and later died in hospital. March and March alleged the killing was linked to its campaign against undocumented migrants, describing it as a targeted attack. The group said several of its leaders had recently received threats, raising concern over coordinated intimidation. Acting Police Commissioner
Lieutenant General Puleng Dempa said a multidisciplinary team would conduct a thorough investigation and ensure those responsible are held accountable. The shooting comes amid heightened tensions over undocumented migration, a divisive issue that has fueled nationwide protests. March and March has continued weekly demonstrations after demanding undocumented migrants leave South Africa by June 30th. The government said over 53,000 foreign nationals have been deported or repatriated since launching its migration management campaign. Police also arrested 5 suspects in Limpopo for allegedly posing as immigration officers and intimidating legally resident foreign nationals, including a Nigerian businessman. Authorities warned against harassment of migrants, while March and March insisted it reject violence and called for lawful enforcement of immigration policies. Over to Sierra Leone. The country has withdrawn treason and related charges against former President Ernest Bai Koroma over the 2023 attempted coup. Information Minister Cherno Ba said the charges were dropped on health grounds after legal proceedings were discontinued. Koroma, 72-year-old, had consistently denied involvement in the failed coup that saw gunmen attack military facilities and prisons. The former president welcomed the decision, saying peace, justice, and reconciliation should prevail. He thanked President Julius Maada Bio, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, and ECOWAS for supporting efforts to resolve the matter. Following his arrest, ECOWAS brokered an agreement that allowed Koroma to travel to Nigeria for medical treatment. The government said Koroma is now free to return to Sierra Leone whenever he chooses. Koroma served as president from 2007 until 2018 before losing office to President Bio. Authorities previously convicted 35 people, including civilians and soldiers, over the attempted coup and imposed lengthy prison terms. About 20 people died during the uprising, which followed the disputed presidential elections, whose results were challenged by the opposition and criticized by international observers. Moving on, at least 8 people were killed in overnight Russian attacks across Ukraine. 3 people died and 3 others were injured in a major missile and drone strike on the Black Sea city of Odessa. Another 3 people were killed and 17 others injured in Russia's bombardment of Sumy, while 2 more deaths were reported in other regions. Ukraine's military said its drones struck 20 Russian vessels, including 17 oil tankers in the Black Sea overnight. Russia acknowledged attacking Odessa, saying it targeted port infrastructure used for petroleum storage and transport. Ukrainian officials accused Russia of striking civilian areas, including a residential building, non-residential property, and a gas pipeline. The United Nations said 293 civilians were killed and nearly 2,000 injured in Ukraine in June, with missiles and drones causing nearly half of all deaths. Recent Russian attacks have focused on Ukraine's Black Sea port, critical to grain export and the country's wartime economy. Ukraine's attack have also disrupted Russian shipping in the Sea of Azov, affecting a key grain export route. As fighting continues, Ukraine is navigating political changes following the resignation of Prime Minister Yulia Zurivdenko, while European Ursula von der Leyen visited Kyiv to discuss defense cooperation and EU accessions. That's so much we have on Global Update.
Thanks for staying tuned. With that, we have come to the end of this bulletin on Third Eye Africa Television. I am Kanachiko Ojuyenun.